We're almost finished with the application. In this section, we're going to focus on working on the home page, learn about query parameters, and play the audio. We'll start by creating the home page. Let's check it out in our browser. Two sections come with the home page: an introduction and a list of songs uploaded onto the site. The introduction will remain static. I've added it for aesthetic reasons. However, the list of songs will be dynamic. We'll be filtering the list of songs by using infinite scrolling. Infinite scrolling will require we impose limits on how many results are returned by Firebase. It's going to be a little tricky, but we can get the job done. We'll be working on the home component file. Open it in your editor. The first thing we'll do is request the data from Firebase. We're going to request the entire collection. We'll introduce pagination in a future lecture. The goal is to start displaying the list of songs first. In the home component file, we'll need to add the script block to the component with an exported object. We'll give the component a name to help with debugging. We'll give the component the name home. We'll want to request the data when the component is created by using the created_lifecycle function. Define it in the exported object. It will need to be asynchronous because we will be making a request to Firebase for the data. Speaking of Firebase, we'll need to import the songs collection from the Firebase configuration file at the top. We're going to be requesting songs from the database. The songs collection object will help us with that. Inside the created function, call the get function on the collection to initiate the query. This function will return a promise. We'll add the await keyword to handle the promise. We'll assign the value returned by the promise to a variable called snapshots. The get function will perform a get request on the collection. We can chain some functions to filter out what documents are retrieved from the document. However, we're going to start by retrieving all the documents in the collection. The value returned by this promise will be an array of documents. We'll want to push the data from the documents into the component. We currently don't have a way to store the response data in the component. Let's take care of that next. Create the data function in the component. In the object we're returning, we'll create a property called songs. By default, it'll be set to an empty array. We'll push the documents into this array. Back in the created function, we need to loop through the documents to push them in the array. We'll call the forEach function on the snapshots array. We'll pass in an arrow function to handle each iteration. The function is provided with the document for its first parameter. We'll refer to it as document. The document's data will need to be pushed into the array. First, call the push method on the songs data property to push an object into it. There are two things we'll want to store. The first is the document ID. It's a unique value we'll want to store because we'll be looping through the results in the template. We'll need to bind the key attribute to the element we're performing the loop on to prevent issues from occurring. We'll use the ID of the document as the value for the key. We'll add a property called docID. Its value will be the doc.id property. The next thing we'll grab is the data in the document. We can call the doc.data function with the spread operator to merge the properties into the object we're pushing into the array. After storing the songs, we can render the data in the template. In the template, we'll have an ordered list element with some dummy list items. It's surrounded by the comments that say playlist. We're going to remove the dummy list items except for one. We're going to perform a loop on the list we left alone. Before we do, we'll be writing a lot of code in the template. It would be a good idea to outsource some of the template in a separate component. In the components directory, we'll create a file called songitem.view. We'll scaffold the template and script blocks. We'll give the component the name songitem. The template for this component will be the list item element we have in the home component file. We'll cut the list item element from the home component. After cutting it, paste it into the songitem components template. We want to use this component in the home component. We'll need to register it locally. Back in the home component file, we're going to import the component as appSongItem. The path to the file is @/components/songitem.view. Subsequently, we'll need to define the components property in the home component to register the component. We're going to register the appSongItem component locally. After registering the component, we can use it in the template. We'll load the component where we previously cut the list item, in between the ordered list tags. We can begin to loop through the list of songs on the component. We have two options for approaching this. We can pass down the data to the component. In the songitem component file, we can accept the data from the parent component. When we receive it, we can loop through the data. However, this will not work. It's because Vue does not allow for components to have a loop applied to the root element. Instead, we'll have to approach this problem the second way. We'll apply the loop on the component. In each iteration, we'll pass down the item in the current iteration to the songitem component. This solution is perfectly allowed. Let's look at how we can implement it. On the songitem component, we're going to add the v-for directive to it. The expression will be the following: song in songs. We should bind the key attribute to the song.documentID property. Remember, the key should be something in the object that's unique. The document ID is a unique value in each document. The next thing we'll do is pass down the item in the current iteration to the child component. We want to pass along the song data. We're going to bind a property on the component called song. Its value will be the song reference. We'll switch over to the songitem component. The data from the parent component will need to be accepted if we want to use it. Down below, in the script block, we'll add the props option to the component. The value for this property will be an array of props we'll accept from the parent component. We'll add the song prop we bound to the component. Everything is in place. Time to start wiring everything together. We'll start from the top and work our way down in the template. First, we'll replace the static text for the song title with an expression. The song title is in the anchor tag with the class of composition name. The expression will be the following: song.modifiedName. There isn't a page for viewing a single song. We'll be creating the route and component for this page in a later lecture. For now, we'll leave the link as is. Below the title is the artist's name. Replace the static text for the author's name to the expression song.name. Lastly, the span tags contain the comment count. Replace the static number for the comment count to the expression song.commentCount. We'll leave it at that. We're finished with preparing the home template. Let's test the application by refreshing the home page in the browser. The home page is displaying the results from the query we performed. There's one issue we need to deal with. The pagination is not working. We decided to get the entire collection instead of splitting the result into separate pages. We'll deal with this issue in the next lecture.